What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellowship. My name is Kyle. In this video, I'm recording this on May 30th. We're almost to June. Super exciting. We're going to get some more movement on some things, but I kind of want to just take a moment to look at 2023 contract year players. These are going to be guys that are free agents in 2024, and I like to kind of just be cautious and just be aware of who is playing for their next big contract. So what we're going to do here is we're going to hop into a screen share, and I have this article live on the fantasyfellowship.com. If you guys go to the 2023 playbook, and again, it's free this year. It's essentially a draft kit, and it's just where I'm posting all of my nuggets for this season. But you scroll on down here to the articles, 2023 contract year players. So we're going to look at all the main positions for fantasy: quarterback, running back, receiver, and tight end. And I'm going to show you guys who is a free agent next year. And I'll kind of let you know if I think that we should be targeting them in fantasy football. Like, do we want to bet on this player, or are they past their prime? So let's get into it a little bit. I did link right here too. This is where I pulled all of the information from Spot Track here. It's going to show you guys all the free agents, and you can kind of change the position and things like that here. But that's where all the information is pulled. You can also see their 2023 average salary, which is kind of interesting. And that's the way that these guys are kind of ordered here. So the quarterbacks, not a lot of quarterbacks on this list here, but Kirk Cousins, he's 35 and a half years old, very likely his last multi-year contract. So as you go through this list, I'm going to put their age, and I'll kind of just say what they're playing for. And Cousins at 35 and a half, like, we do not know how much longer he has. He's going to be entering his 36th year season come 2024. He's maybe going to get, I would be surprised if it's a 3-year deal, but maybe a 1 to 2 year deal at most. Who knows if it's going to be with the Vikings. I do think that he has something to play for, and perhaps the Vikings lean a little bit more pass heavy this year too. So there's a lot to play for Kirk Cousins. I mean, if he's not a Viking, he also has to look good for other teams that might be needing a quarterback, and say they have like a win now roster, and Kirk Cousins can be that guy for them. So I do like grabbing Kirk Cousins, and every time I draft him, it's like, yeah, I'm thinking of Justin Jefferson and Hawkinson and Addison and all these awesome weapons, but I'm also like, he needs to secure one more bag before his run is over here. So keep an eye on Kirk Cousins. The other notable quarterback here is Ryan Tannehill. He's basically the same age, 35 and a half years old as Kirk Cousins. And this is very likely like Tannehill's last contract. Like, he's probably going to be on like a 1-year deal at best. Maybe I've heard rumors of the Titans re-signing him as well, which if he plays really well this year and he holds off Will Levis, that would be a little bit of a surprise. But I do think that Tannehill's services could be used somewhere, and it's probably likely as a backup next year. But again, if he balls out this year and he looks really good, maybe the Titans extend him. Maybe he's in a starting quarterback competition next year. But either way, I'm not really quite sure how to bet on Tannehill here. I think we're going to see Will Levis at some point here. So I'm not in on Tannehill. I do like Cousins. And then just some other notable guys here. We got Jacoby Brissett. Sam Darnold's an interesting one, because if he does it all, if he plays it all this year and he looks good, there's potential for him to get, a contract next year to be kind of like a tryout quarterback, in a quarterback competition with another veteran or young player. Keep an eye on Jameis Winston as well. I think we could see him be moved from New Orleans and look for a chance to start. Drew Lock, Baker Mayfield, just some other guys here. So not really anything interesting in the quarterback spot. But look at the running backs. Tons of fantasy juiciness here with the running backs. And Derrick Henry, he's just turned 30 years old. Chance for one more 2-year deal. I mean, I would be surprised if someone probably shouldn't give him a 2-year deal. He should be on like a year-to-year deal from this point out. But a player of Derrick Henry's caliber, he's probably going to try and get a 2-year deal somewhere. Maybe it's with the Titans. Maybe he goes to somewhere that just needs that running back to get them over the hump. I mean, what if he's a Kansas City Chief? Like, something like that. I could easily see Derrick Henry maybe taking a discount to go get a ring. But for now, I kind of want to bet on Derrick Henry to perform this year. The only thing that worries me is just the Titans' offense might be kind of bad. It's kind of the same thing with Derrick Henry. Like, do they want to keep this unit together? I'm not really quite sure. Henry's had a lot of wear and tear on him. He's got a ton of carries. Also on the wrong age of 30 right now. So I'm not super excited about Derrick Henry. He's kind of being drafted in the beginning of the 3rd round of best ball drafts right now. So he's an interesting value play. But I guess I don't know how much more money he has left to earn with these contracts. Now, Joe Mixon's an interesting one. He's 27.6 years old. He's probably looking for a 2 or 3 year deal. And this is probably, that's kind of the sweet spot for a running back. When you turn 27, 28, you have like one more chance to secure a multi-year deal. And that's kind of his last chance right here. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if he returns to the Bengals. They don't have a lot of depth behind him. They probably want to keep him around with that core of Joe Burrow and the receivers. But Joe Mixon, he needs to play really well this year. And I guess the main point of doing this and looking to see who's a free agent next year. Because like if you don't play well in the final year of your contract, you're not going to make as much money in your next deal. So this is very, very important for running backs, especially at this 26, 27, 28 years old. Like this is their final chance to get a big chunk of money on a big deal. So Joe Mixon, I'm kind of buying into him. He's a 5th round pick. He did start to show signs of decline last year, but there's just no competition behind him. They got a rookie running back and some other guys that just have been hanging around the team for a while. So Mixon, a guy that could probably earn a lot of money this year. And then Josh Jacobs is the next guy here at 26.1 years old. That's a nice age for a running back to get his first big deal. I'm assuming he's going to be one of the highest paid backs in free agency next year. Now there's a chance the Raiders restructure with him. I don't think the Raiders are having very fun, a lot of fun this offseason. I think they could potentially lose Josh Jacobs next year. But either way, a 4-year deal for Jacobs, and he's probably going to test, the market for the highest paid running back deal. So I'm kind of buying into Jacobs. The only issue is it's kind of like Henry. Like I don't like the Raiders offense this year. I don't think they're going to be super competitive for real life football. And you also have to wonder, are they going to be able to run the ball? Just some questions there. I mean, the man's coming off a fantastic year, but I do think he has a lot riding on him this year. Like he needs to get, if he doesn't get a big deal next year, he might have to just accept a 1-year deal and try and prove it again. So I like Jacobs. I just don't like the Raiders. Tony Pollard is a guy here at 26.8 years old. He signed a franchise tag this year coming off an injury. So I think that's fair for him to take that. But he's looking to ball out this year and then get that big, big payday, that probably his highest paid contract of his career. 2 to 3 year deal on the line. I like Tony Pollard. I think you want to buy into him. He is coming off an injury, and I'm very curious to see who emerges as the number 2 running back for Dallas. They have Malik Davis, who was kind of the 3rd guy last year, and they brought in Deuce Vaughn there to maybe compete as the number 2 guy. So keep an eye on those guys, but I think Tony Pollard can earn himself a nice payday next year. Saquon Barkley here, he is, I don't believe he's in contract talks with the Giants. I don't think he's happy with the franchise tag. He's 27.1 years old. He wants a big contract. He wants to be, I mean, he could be one of the highest paid running backs, if not like, first, second, or third. But he's seeking commitment. He wants, and a lot of these running backs, they want longevity to these deals. So he's probably seeking top, 1, 2, 3 running back money and years on that side of it. So I kind of like buying into Saquon Barkley. I think the Giants are on the up and up. They're adding talent to their offense. It could be a nice year for Saquon Barkley and the Giants. Austin Eckler at 28.8 years old. We know he's disgruntled with his contract situation. The Chargers did give him a little bonus though last week, which I think was a nice nod and said, "Hey, let's get you back in camp here." But he wants that final pay. He wants that final contract where essentially it just sets him up for the rest of his life. And he wants a final, probably 1 or 2 year deal. At 28 and a half, he doesn't have a lot of wear and tear. He's a smaller guy, but we know he's muscly thick. But at 28.8 years old, I think he's got, maybe 2 really solid fantasy seasons left. Maybe he tries to get a 3-year deal, but I think a 2-year deal is pretty good for Eckler. So I like buying into that. And he's a guy that you want to kind of bet on. He tried, voicing his discomfort in free agency this year and maybe potentially seeking a trade. Nothing really happened of it. So Eckler, he's a really smart guy. He knows how the market works. And I think we're going to see the best of Austin Eckler this year, which should be a good year for the Chargers offense. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 24.9 years old, likely needs a 1-year prove-it deal. It depends, man. I mean, if he gets a lot of work this year because there's injuries to the backfield, like maybe maybe he does get paid next year. But I think at the moment, the Chiefs kind of view him as a backup, and he probably needs to sign a 1-year deal somewhere next year to prove his worth and maybe get a bigger deal in the future. Kind of the same thing with DeAndre Swift at 25.1 years old, likely seeking a 2 or 3-year deal, but I think he might need a 1-year prove-it deal. And it's really going to depend on how the Eagles use him. I don't think the Eagles are going to use him as a 3-down back. I think he's going to be kind of stuck into the passing down work and maybe some of the first and second down carries. But we'll see what happens. If Swift knows he needs to ball out this year, so I think he's going to play well. I just don't know how often the Eagles are going to give him all the touches he needs to make a big contract next year. Now, a guy that's going to get big money next year is Jonathan Taylor. I fully expect him to come back to the Colts. They don't really have a lot of high-paid players on their team. They got a rookie quarterback on a rookie deal, 25.1 years old for JT. He's probably going to be seeking that 4-year deal. He wants to lock himself in there as a Colt forever, and probably going to be one of the highest paid running backs next year. So I like betting on JT. Betting on him seems to be like a pretty good idea in the second round. Cam Akers, 24.7 years old, likely seeking a 2 to 4 year deal. He's got a wide range of outcomes here. Now, he's a full year removed from his injury, so the timing of his Achilles injury was pretty good because now he's entering this offseason completely healthy, which is fantastic because he has a chance to make a ton of money next year. If he comes out and he's a dominant back, like we all expected him to be before his injury, it could be really, really nice to him. So there's a lot of motivation for Akers here. He's coming into the offseason healthy, and kind of the same story for J.K. Dobbins. Both these guys, roughly 25 years old, seeking that 2 to 4 year deal, and they're both 1 full year removed from a pretty bad injury. So expect these guys to probably have career years in this year and probably have a good chance at making a good contract year next year. AJ Dillon, 25.8 years old, likely seeking a 2 or 3 year deal. I'm not sure he's ever going to be a lead back. I think he's a really capable back. He kind of actually reminds me of kind of like a Jamal Williams, where he could be your lead back if you need him to be. He doesn't have all the tools of a feature back, but he can do everything pretty well. And I expect him to probably return to Green Bay. He's probably going to seek longevity, whether it's 2-3 year deal. But yeah, this year's a big year for him. He's shown things in flashes over his 3-year career, but this is the year where he needs to put it all together and make sure he secures as much money for the future. Because again, these guys at 25, 26, 27 years old, they don't know how many more contract opportunities they're going to get. And then you have Antonio Gibson here at 25.7 years old. He likely wants a 2 or 3 year deal, but I think he might have to settle for a 1 year prove it deal. I don't know if the Commanders are going to use him enough to get him paid well next year. So we know he's going to be trying his hardest for sure. All these guys are, but he probably needs a new team to be able to kind of reset the table, so to speak. And then some other names to monitor here at the running back situation: Gus Edwards, Devin Singletary, Deonta Foreman, Boston Scott, Damian Harris, Rashad Penny, and Josh Kelly. Rashad Penny, man, if he stays healthy and he balls out this year, he's getting a ton of money. So some names to just keep an eye on there. Receivers, I'll kind of go over these a little bit quicker. Mike Evans at 30.5 years old. He probably just wants 1 more 2-year deal, maybe 3 years at the most. We're starting to see these 30-year-old receivers starting to get 3-year deals. You look at what Adam Thielen just got for the Carolina Panthers. I think that might be kind of the mold for some of these guys. Odell Beckham at 31.3 years old. He likely needs another 1-year deal. I don't know if he's going to be able to showcase everything in that crowded Ravens wide receiver room, but he's probably going to want a 2-year deal. Marquise Brown, he's going to be a top paid guy on the market next year. 26.7 years old. I'm assuming he's gone from Carolina or from Arizona, but we'll see. And he's got a good 4-year deal in his arsenal here. He's probably seeking that 3 to 4 years. He's going to be a top paid wide receiver, and especially if he goes to a contender, someone's going to want his services for sure. Calvin Ridley at 29.2 years old, likely seeking another large year deal, probably with Jacksonville. I would assume he wants to finish his career there. If things go well this year. And at 29.2 years old, I think the 3-year deal looks pretty good, playing until he's 32 years old. Calvin Ridley, and again, I mean, it's his first year back. He's got a lot to prove. He's got a huge chip on his shoulder. He's got that big contract, potentially next year. Calvin Ridley's probably a guy you want to bet on. I like T. Higgins. He's pretty young too. T. Higgins at 25.1. He's probably seeking a 4 or 5 year deal. Especially if the Bengals want to keep him in Cincinnati to lock him there for a while and make sure they got their books straight for the future with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. But T. Higgins, probably another one of those guys that knows, hey, I want to stay in Cincinnati. I got to stay healthy. I got to put up my best numbers of my career. These guys are essentially coming into life-changing contracts at this age. Michael Pittman Jr., 26.4 years old. I think the Colts are going to be in a tough situation next year with Jonathan Taylor and Michael Pittman Jr. I think they're going to want to pay both guys, but I could see Pittman maybe looking to see if there's more money on the other side of the fence. But he's likely seeking a 3 or 4 year deal. I think, again, these guys getting contracts up until they're 30, they kind of want to be secured until they're 30, 31. Chase Claypool probably needs a 1 or 2 year prove it deal. He's 25.6 years old. I don't know if there's going to be enough opportunity to show what he can do in Chicago. So he might need a new team to potentially earn a deal in the future. Van Jefferson, 27.6 years old, likely seeking a 1 or 2 year deal. I like him a lot. He's a full year removed from a pretty serious injury himself. So kind of like the running backs, J.K. Dobbins, before. I think Van Jefferson's probably going to have his best year of his career and could make a ton of money next year. Gabe Davis, another guy, super young, 24.9 years old. He probably wants to land a long-term deal with Buffalo. Maybe they don't give him everything, but I think he wants to stay attached to Josh Allen, wants to stay next to Stephon Diggs. He's got a lot to play for as well. Darnell Mooney, 26.3 years old. I don't know if we're going to, again, kind of like Chase Claypool, I don't know if the Chicago offense is going to be enough to showcase their skills and get them a huge payday. But we shall see. He probably needs a 2 or 3 year deal. And then Donovan Peoples-Jones, I don't think he's going to resign with Cleveland. They drafted Cedric Tillman. They brought in a couple other guys. At 25 years old, he's probably seeking a nice 2 or 3 year deal. Kind of reminds me of like a Zay Jones contract where Zay went. Zay was with Buffalo and then the Raiders, and then he signed a pretty big contract with the Jacksonville Jaguars to be their number 2, number 3 receiver. I could see that happening for Donovan Peoples-Jones, roughly maybe 8 to 10 million per year. And then a bunch of names to monitor here. You guys can check out the article and look into some of these guys, but these guys are all kind of secondary players, like, wide receiver 3 or 4s on their team. And then the tight ends, kind of a bunch of older guys, but Hunter Henry at 29.2. I don't know what his longevity is going to be, but I'm sure he'll take a 2-year, $15 million deal or something. Evan Ingram probably wants to stay in Jacksonville, but playing on a franchise tag, I don't think he's very happy. Tyler Higbee, I didn't realize how old Tyler Higbee was, but he's 31.2, likely seeking at least a 1 to 2 year deal. Dalton Schultz is probably the guy that's got the best opportunity to get a nice payday next year. Not sure if he's with the right team, Houston, to inflate his numbers, but at 27.6 years old, Schultz has been very productive his whole career. He's probably seeking a 2 to 3 year deal minimum. Gerald Everett at 29.7, probably seeking the 1 to 2 year deal. Hawkinson's going to be the belle of the ball, though, at 26.7 years old. He's probably seeking a very large deal, anywhere from 4 years to whatever, but he's probably going to be the highest paid tight end after next year. Mike Gesicki, we'll see, probably a 2 to 3 year deal. Hopefully this year in New England, he can finally find his worth. Noah Fant is still pretty young as well, 26.3 years old, likely seeking a 2 or 3 year deal. Maybe he moves on from Seattle. Cole Kmet, just at 25, probably, again, seeking these 2 to 3 year deals. And same with Irv Smith there, who needs kind of a prove it. He kind of took a prove it deal with Cincinnati this year. If he goes out and has a productive year, he's going to make a lot of money next year. So Austin Hooper, Robert Tonyan, all these guys kind of on the bottom here. But for tight ends, give me TJ Hawkinson. He's going to get paid next year. I do like Dalton Schultz. I think he's going to find a nice market next year. But for tight ends, it's pretty clear to me, Hawkinson, and then don't sleep on Noah Fant. But it's all about Hawkinson. At the receiver position, I kind of want to bet on Marquise Brown, Calvin Ridley, T. Higgins, Pittman, Gabe Davis, and maybe Van Jefferson. At the running back spot, I pretty much like all these guys. Unsure on Derrick Henry, unsure on Josh Jacobs. We're not drafting Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I'm still not drafting a ton of DeAndre Swift. But my favorites are right here: Jonathan Taylor, Cam Akers, J.K. Dobbins, probably A.J. Dillon. Like those 4 guys you should try and target for sure. And then Eckler, Barkley, those guys are my favorite at the top end of the list. But that's it. Those are the guys that are playing for big money contracts in 2024. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Is there anyone that you're willing to target from that list, or did I miss anybody? Let me know. Thank you guys so much for your time. We'll see you in a future video. Peace.